So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé MK. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 8, Episode 12 of Happily Ever After. In this episode, Kobe and Emily prepare for their meeting with Kobe's ex. Sophie and Rob separately wonder while they're even still together. Lauren and Alexei reel from the news coming out of Israel. Patrick's dad has yet even more projects for him. Gino and Jasmine fight about their sex life, partially in front of his family. Ashley discloses her debt to a lawyer and to Manuel. And Angela is still mad at Michael for changing the interview location. We'll be back again next week to talk about episode 13. And we'll also be back on our other channel, Live After Lockup MK, covering the current season of Love During Lockup. Alright, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
I'm not doing too bad. I'm, busy working. I'm at work for a long time. Let's put it that way right now.
We are at work for a long time
Yes.
because we are in person together because we're at reading right now. So yeah, it's been a week.
Right. And at least we got to watch the show together, which means I don't know.
I feel like we talk about it a lot, not on the podcast
Right.
recording because we're together and we have our first reactions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, one couple that we thought was super boring and did not progress at all, we don't really understand what's even happening, is Emily and Kobe. So Emily and Kobe are on their way to the beach to meet up with his ex, and Kobe is saying this is really weird, which we both agreed. He questions why she just doesn't trust him. Emily doesn't like being lied to, and she just wants to know the truth of the timeline of his relationship. Kobe told Emily that he was single when he met her, and his friend Valerie told Emily that Kobe didn't break up with his ex until Emily was pregnant. Kobe tells Emily that it's common for young couples to visit this beach, and Emily then asks if he's brought his ex there. Kobe doesn't know why, she just can't let it go, and he doesn't think she'll be satisfied with any answers because she's too stubborn to actually listen. Emily just wants to know if she was lied to 5 years ago, and she won't let it go until she finds out, even though she kind of says that it doesn't really mean anything. And then the ex strolls up with a friend, and Emily just is disbelief. Oh, she brought a friend.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you had an ex reach out to you wanting to meet up, would you bring a buffer or a friend?
No, I wouldn't meet up.
Yeah.
I would not agree to this meeting at all. I don't even know why she would. That's how. I need you randomly all these years later, 5 years later or something like that. I want you to meet my now wife that I dumped you for. It's no. Why would I do that? Why would I want to be a part of that at all? Let alone, if I had to, I wouldn't want to go in there alone, outnumbered.
Right. I wonder if production is paying a lot for her to show up.
They would need to pay something, right?
Yeah, and I wonder if that's the motivation, because it just seems like this is the dumbest storyline, especially because there are no consequences to the actual answer. Was she going to, divorce Kobe, or just be really super pissed that he lied to her 5 years ago? Because it seriously doesn't matter now.
Yeah, I don't. This is one of those ones where I kind of want Emily to game it out in her head, right?
Yeah.
It's just be okay, what if she says yes?
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, how would you feel? What would that be like? How would that change things?
Right.
What if she said no? How would you feel? How would that change things? And it's either way, what, did you get to divorce him because 5 years ago he told a small lie about how broken up he was with the girl before he definitely dumped this girl to be committed to her? It seems wild.
Yeah, it just seems really stupid. And I think he also thinks it's stupid. And that's why I don't even understand why he's going along with it. I get why he's going along with it. He's very easygoing.
Yeah, it's easier to just do it than to fight about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because, yes, and knowing Emily, just how she is, she would probably say, oh, well then, why are you hiding something? You don't want me to meet your ex? You're trying to hide that you're lying to me.
I would kind of agree to it because I would assume my ex would say, what? No, I'm not, no. I kind of thought it was last week it was a trap. It was to be why don't you text her right now and get her to meet? And you'd be why is her number still on your phone? Okay. We've seen that a lot of times from other people. Why are they on social media? When there's a lot of people who do that, break up and it's no, blocked on the phone, delete all the social media, no contact. I can't text her. Sorry. I don't even remember her number.
Yeah. I just think a phone call would have been fine, or a FaceTime or something.
Email, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
this just seems so extra.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, that definitely has the feel of a production idea for a plotline.
For sure.
Yeah, so speaking of things that, I don't know, I don't even know that mine felt like production plots, but let's go. Well, John being in Brazil altogether is a production plot, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So Patrick and Thais, we see them impatiently waiting and trying to wake up John, and they both seem really annoyed. So he comes out, and Thais, like, straight off the bat, sarcastically thanks him. She's like, thanks for eating my cake yesterday. And then they show, like, a huge pile of dishes that someone left in the sink. But we also know that he's like, those dishes couldn't have been mine, right? Because she's like, if you want to stay here, clean up the mess. He's like, they're not mine. I didn't dirty any dishes because I ate the cake with my bare hands. And they show him just, like, not even, like, picking up a piece of cake with his bare hands and, like, eating it, just, like, pawing into the cake like a bear. Like, just, right? And I have video evidence of it. It definitely happened. So after arguing about that for a while, they bring out the baby, and then they say they're going to see Patrick's dad's ranch to scout out a possible location for Alici's party. Now, this is like the whole ostensible reason for coming to Brazil, right? Mm-hmm. So Thais is not sold on this spot as a good spot for the party because it's like 2 hours away, but she says she's willing to make that compromise for Patrick. So she also thinks that, now, I assume because he's Brazilian, they keep saying Jose, so I'm going to say that too. He's going to, like, overcharge Patrick. He's going to do two things. First, charge Patrick a ton of money to use this ranch. And second, make Patrick do work at the ranch.
To fix it up.
Yeah. So she also so they hit the road, and then it's even farther than they thought it was. They were like 2 hours, and like then there was dirt road bouncing back and forth, like really on a bouncy dirt road, which comes into play because it's far away and Thais has to pee. And now she's on this bouncy dirt road and she's like, that's it. I'm getting out. I'm going to pee. And that was like extra difficult because she wasn't wearing a skirt or even pants.
Oh, gosh.
She had like a full long sleeve, long leg bodysuit on. And so she ended up peeing on her feet a little bit. So after that, John tells us a little bit about his thoughts on Patrick's father, that he is kind of on very much on Thais' side, that Jose is taking advantage of Patrick's kind nature. Doesn't seem to think too highly of him. So then we finally get there and they start to check out the grounds. So Patrick thinks there's plenty of room for all the people. He's like, look at that. And maybe we can even like move some fences around, make a petting zoo. And then, when they get up to the house, Jose steps up and gives everybody a hug. And John says that he hasn't seen Jose in like 20 years because they kind of had a bad relationship. So he described him as the kind of the guy that would get you a moped for Christmas and then sell it in February.
Oh, gosh.
So as soon as they stop with all the greetings, Jose starts talking to Patrick about how, like, immediately it was like, oh, hi, how are you guys going? So I need stones underneath the deck here. It's kind of a gap on the house. And, we need to add these, they need to be all around the house. And then the fence over here is broken. And these trees on the walk there, they need to get trimmed and everything. But he keeps saying, for the party. That's why we need those things. And so this is where John was just like, yep, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. And Thais tries to like talk to Jose and say like, we don't really need those things for the party. You're just trying to get free stuff out of Patrick here. And you should pay with them. But he just keeps being like, but the money, about the money. I had the money. So Thais doesn't understand why he keeps asking for more money, when he also claims that he's supporting himself, which she doesn't really believe either, because she's like, yeah, you're supporting yourself with the money that we're giving you for your apartment.
Oh my gosh. And
so anyway, John thinks that he actually has plenty of money and he's just hoarding it and not like he isn't as hard up as he pretends. So Patrick gets defensive and says, of course you got to help out when it's family. So that's when John goes in, oh, is it family? Like, maybe you should have been there more when Patrick was growing up then. And like, that was just awkward silence. So Thais really does think that Jose is treating Patrick like his personal bank. So, I mean, do you see it the same way? Is he just like, yep, just sees his son and just sees a big dollar sign walking around?
Oh, I definitely got that impression. Jose just seems really shady. but like,
Yeah.
just he seems really shady, but also not in a way where he's even really trying to hide it. So I don't even know what you call that, because shady people usually are trying to hide their intentions. But I feel like he's not even trying to hide it, but he just has this like kind of guilty look on his face all the time. And like, it's almost like he's just kind of pushing the envelope all the time. Like, what more can I get? I ask you for this. I ask you for this. And then he just gets the things because Patrick goes along with it. But you know, I think that John and Thais are pushing back a little bit, and I don't know. Just, I don't get good vibes from Jose.
No, I don't either. And I feel like Patrick really has a lot of abandonment issues with Jose. And I feel like that's part of the resentment that John has for him. And he's like, oh yeah, you just did that. And now you think you can get your son to basically see how much do I have to pay to buy his love back. Right. And so Patrick is just like, yeah. Like, cause I very much do think that Patrick feels like if I don't do these things, if I don't help out family, he'll just disappear again. Like he doesn't give a shit. Like he'll be gone. And so he's like just kind of doing all this stuff his dad wants just to keep his dad around.
Yeah. And I think that's just so sad. I don't think he would like miss out on much if Jose wasn't in his life.
It doesn't sound like it, right? I mean, because what does he get? Literally, they're there for less than 5 minutes, and he's like, all right, here's the things I need you to do. Here's the favors. And not like favors. Because it wasn't even just like, oh man, because I get, with my dad, he'll have work that needs to be done around the house. And he's like, all right, well, I bought a bunch of 4x4s and we're going to dig holes and put a fence or something, right? Yeah, that's typical. He's like, Patrick, go out and buy a bunch of 4x4s so that you by yourself can dig holes and put in a fence. And I'm just going to sit here. Like, that's where it crosses that line from, just helping out family to taking advantage of family.
Yeah, definitely. So, they're just, we'll see more of it next week, but it felt a little bit like extortion, just like the whole.
Oh, yeah. I thought you wanted to have the party here.
Yeah.
Oh, you think I'm going to do it for free? Like that's a part that was crazy too, because it wasn't just like, hey, here's the things I want to do to fix up my house. Yeah. Maybe you can help me out. He was like, okay, great, so we can have the party. And the dad was like, I'm not doing that for free. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Right. I could make good money on that. Like that was like, so is this a business transaction or is this helping out family? Which one of these two things is it?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to, let's get our sad group out of the way. Sad because now we're talking about like world tragedies.
This one is.
Yeah. So it's been 3 weeks since Lauren has had her surgery, and Alexei and his dad are watching the news about the war in Israel. Alexei is worried about his mom and his brother, who are still there. They're getting firsthand reports from friends and family still in Israel that it's affecting everyone. Alexei calls his mom because he wants to make sure that the bomb shelter is ready with supplies. Alex feels torn and isn't sure if he should do more, and he just feels general guilt. Lauren is struggling not to cry in front of the kids. Lauren rounds up the boys so they can also be on the call with Grandma. Lauren feels bad that her surgery recovery is one of the many things on Alexei's mind right now. His mom says it's a nightmare over there because they've had to go to the bomb shelter because the sirens went off. Alex's dad is in the U.S. in Florida with Lauren and Alexei, and he's planning on staying in the U.S. until his return ticket. They feel guilty that they are not there. Alex served in the Israel Defense Force, and he did consider possibly going back to serve. He says it's very hard to feel so helpless. He thinks maybe he should go and at least volunteer. Lauren is against it, but understands why he would want to. Alex says that if it comes down to it, where it's all hands on deck, he's prepared to go and fight. Okay, so that would be kind of crazy if he really did go. Would they even really accept someone that isn't even in their country anymore?
So I definitely don't know much about the IDF, except I've known people who served in the IDF because if you know anyone an adult that's from Israel, they served in the IDF.
Mandatory,
right?
Sure.
And
I think women too, right?
Yeah. And so, I 1 year in college, I was roomed with a Israeli guy, and he had served too. And so I think it's a little bit misleading to be like, well, I served. And it's like, well, yeah, everybody serves.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And, I assume they would take volunteers back. I don't know. I really don't. Because it seems like, well, would they need more people? But in the time of a war, you'd think you would need more people than you would in times of peace. But again, it's like, this is definitely stuff that is like way out of my area of expertise, and also such a like minefield of politics here. It's like, it's one of those things I try not to say much about this conflict ever, because you never know how anybody around is going to react to it. People have very strong feelings on both sides.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I do not have the expertise or the knowledge of the entire situation to really weigh in myself.
Oh, I don't at all. Like, I feel like this has come up where just even in this period of time where there's been, full on fighting and conflict, I've had to look up, and I feel like I've read the same thing multiple times.
Right.
About, so what is this about exactly? And it's like, and I'll remember it at the moment, and then like a few days later be like, but what? Why are they both still upset?
Yeah. And then like the determinants of like, obviously anti-Semitism is like wrong and disgusting, but like the things of like, well, how much can you criticize Israel versus does that when you veer into being anti-Semitic and stuff like that? And I feel like the show itself is in a really tough place with that too, right? Right.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's from their perspective,
sure.
And people they know are suffering. And I think, that's the part where, I think everyone can relate to like the situation, regardless of how you feel about the politics behind it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, and because Lauren kind of like implied something about that, how torn she is, because clearly they have loved ones that are in Israel and they are primarily concerned with their safety, right?
Yeah.
And worried about their safety. But I mean, she did kind of, without saying anything specific, seem to imply like, I'm not sure like where I fall on what I feel about this right now, beyond the safety of the people that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I don't know what to say about that. It's not what, whenever we get off of like, this is a dumb people and dumb relationships. It can get very much like this is the kind of thing I watch the show to avoid having to think about. Right.
I mean, I'm thinking of like Jovi and Yara. They had fights over like, getting plastic surgery. And then it got serious real fast because then it became about Yara and like her mom suffering in the Ukraine.
Right. Yeah. And it's terrible. But anyway, let's on to people that are terrible and not situations that are terrible. Let's talk about Sophie and Rob. So Rob is at the gym and he's working out with Torai. And if you remember, Torai is his friend from LA and he's visiting him in Austin. So they're both showing how the big dumbbells, like I really think they would just picked out the biggest dumbbells on the rack to do presses just to be like, look at how big these things are. Yeah. So anyway, Torai again is visiting and he thinks Rob should move back to California. How long are you going to be here in Austin? So Rob kind of agrees because he says he only came to Austin to work things out with Sophie, and that's not going well at all. He feels like this isn't even a marriage anymore, and he's tired of everything, every fight, every time they try to work on it ends up with her leaving and being somewhere else. So Sophie again is back at Kay's house, and to Torai means that he's just like, I don't know why you're doing this, man. She's not invested in this thing at all. And then Rob kind of corroborates that by talking about their dry spell in bed. And then, of course, like everybody else, sex is a zero-sum game. Well, if she's not having sex with you, she must be having sex with someone else. Because how could somebody do that? How could do that? So the other thing that kind of comes up in this scenario, I'm not exactly sure how, but it brings up the green card. Rob, mentions like, I don't even know. Or she's applying for the green card. And can she even live there? And Torai is kind of like, wait up. Hold up.
Oh,
right? Because now he figures that she wants the green card, right? And the only reason she hasn't broken up with him completely is because she needs to get the green card first while he's still like sponsoring her or anything. So he doesn't necessarily, and Rob thinks he might have a point, but doesn't necessarily think she came over for the green card, but is like, well, now that she's here and established and move in, maybe she doesn't want to leave so much. So, anyway, adding it all up, Torai is just like, this whole thing doesn't add up. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. There's something missing here, which, it doesn't because Rob's not telling him the whole story. Like, I don't know why he doesn't pick together that those are the pieces of the puzzle picture he's missing. So anyway, but Rob doesn't think that the green card is really the issue, because if you were going for a green card, you would not pick a man that doesn't have a bathroom in his apartment.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So, but again, he still's like, I think we can work it out. And that's when Torai just basically says he's simping. He calls him, he's like, and things don't usually turn out well for simps.
Okay.
Then we get into a scene with Sophie, who's talking with her mom and Kay. So Claire is in some sort of knee brace following a car accident, which is resulted to the breakup with her boyfriend. She is a bigger shit show than Sophie and Rob, actually, and we just kind of are seeing this off screen. So that's kind of wild. So they're going to talk about the fallout after her huge fight with Rob. So Claire thinks Sophie should learn from her mistakes with men, but then, Sophie's with Rob, so she's obviously not doing that. So she says that sometimes Rob can be really sweet, and she really loves that guy when he's doing the sweet things like, whatever. We see it like 3 seconds before they start fighting all the time. But that person isn't around all the time because they start fighting all the time. So, and also if she leaves Rob, she might have to leave the country. And that's one reason. So she's kind of a little bit corroborating the green card thing, but says that isn't the primary reason. And that's not anywhere near the only reason. So Claire thinks that Sophie is delusional for thinking this is going to work. So we get some more ranting from her about how shitty Rob is and how shitty this situation is and everything. She says you either want to, if you want to stay with him, you got for love, you got to stay with him for love, then you have to accept all the bullshit that comes with it, because he has a lot of bullshit that comes with him.
Yeah.
And it's not going to change, and she's still going to be miserable the whole time. So, anyway, she says that since she got here, Sophie, Rob is just going to completely different guy and just is a huge asshole. And then we see her trying to say that in an interview, and then she just breaks down crying and leaves the interview. So I'm a little bit curious as to, after we see all this, and I'm not paying attention to it on social media, but apparently Claire is an absolute shit show on social media.
Yeah, I haven't paid attention.
That's the extent of what I know.
Yeah.
And I'm curious now why Rob doesn't like counterpunch her and be like, you're talking to me. Look at all this bullshit you did. You got in a fight that resulted in a car accident with your boyfriend. Like, what the shit is going on? You're telling me I'm an asshole? Yeah. Like, I'm a little curious why he doesn't do that.
I don't know why he doesn't do that, but I feel like Rob has just started to kind of keep it real. I was shocked that he even admitted that maybe having a bathroom not in your apartment is not a desirable thing, because he was super defensive about it when it was happening. Yeah,
he was like, this is a normal thing. Sometimes you think I'm rich, I'm bougie. Yeah, like.
And now he's like, oh, well, why would you choose that? You're clearly here because you want to be here. And, you wouldn't choose someone who had a bathroom that wasn't in their place.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was kind of shocked that he even admitted that that was not an ideal situation, because, like I said, he's been super defensive about all his stuff.
Yeah, he really has. But I don't know. It's like, I also am like, with Torai, because we've seen that play before, right? We've seen him literally come after Sophie for something, and she's like, well, did he tell you this? And he was like, no, that changes things completely. And then we're like, How many times does that have to happen before you're like, dude, maybe it was you. Like, why is she staying at your house? It seems like she isn't into it. And it's like, because we had a huge fight, and like she thinks I have a burner phone and a hoe phone, and like, it was just, everything he did in the fight. He's just like, well, I don't know, man. We were just talking regular, and all of a sudden she called me an asshole and ran off. And he's like, that doesn't sound right.
That seems like she's trying to leave you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but why? So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't see how they're going to get out of this, because it seems like they have everyone from their respective camps, like, supporting them not being together.
That's true. Yeah. They both are like, nobody on either side is saying, no, you should try to work it out.
Yeah.
But again, with that work it out, Rob keeps saying work it out. And Sophie keeps saying what, but neither of them are trying to do anything different and just expecting there to be a change that happens.
Yeah.
As long as we let's like chug at this hard enough. Yeah. Right. Rob just keeps like, well, the first time I reached into the bear trap, it snapped. And the second time I'm going to keep working on this. And all he keeps doing is reaching into the trap and getting his hand stuck. And it's like, you have to do something else next time. Stop doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. it's kind of the same old with them. And speaking of, it's kind of the same old with this next couple, Gino and Jasmine. So Gino and Jasmine are in the car heading to his family reunion, and he asks her to do him a favor and really try with his family today. They are picking up an order for the reunion for food, and they are waiting at the bar. Gino tells us that Jasmine hasn't said anything to him since the fight because he hasn't paid the pageant fee. He thinks she's out of control. Gino asks her if she's planning on acting like this at the reunion. He says the reunion is important to him and he doesn't want his family to see that there is tension between them. Jasmine thinks he should apologize for calling her crazy. Gino thinks he's the one who's owed an apology for getting a smoothie dumped on his brand new shoes. Jasmine says that she didn't actually throw the smoothie at him, but she just knocked it on the floor and he just happened to be there. She says that she's frustrated that he has all the power. He says that he's not ordering her around and he does so much for her and he wants her to appreciate him. Jasmine says if she hears the word appreciate one more time, she is going to lose her shit. She thinks he breaks his promises and has been sabotaging the pageant. Jasmine doesn't think he appreciates her, that she cooks and cleans for him. And she thinks that he thinks he's the hero for saving her from her poor third world country. Gino thinks that she has a bad attitude. Jasmine thinks that her country was the best place, and then to move to this shithole, she doesn't think that she should play the happy wife anymore. Gino gets his catering order, and Jasmine refuses to help him carry the trays to the car. She does, however, help him carry the trays into the reunion and gives Dana, Gino's cousin, a hug. There is a family band that is singing a song about all the members of the family. They say it's supposed to be Italian music, but Jasmine's pretty sure it's not Italian. Jasmine is only showing up because she likes Uncle Marco. Jasmine says that Gino's family has been so nice and so much better since the wedding. Dana asks her how her birthday was, and Jasmine tells them about the pageant class. Everyone else seems super excited for her, and Jasmine says that Gino says that she can't do it, and that's just cruel. The family doesn't think the cost is too much of an issue when they tell, when she tells them that it costs $1,200. Jasmine says that things haven't been good since Miami. Gino asks her to be positive. Jasmine says that it's not the reality and she's not going to pretend. She wants to be honest with the family to hopefully get some support or feedback. Gino says that Jasmine thinks he's controlling and he doesn't think he is. He tells her he just got there and it's a process. Or she just got there and it's a process. Jasmine doesn't think he's understanding how limiting it is to not have a license or a job. And then Michelle, Dana's wife, sticks up for Jasmine, saying that Jasmine hasn't been out. Gino says, she's been out plenty, and then complains about driving back and forth from the gym every day and says it's so hard for him and it's a lot to ask. Michelle agrees that Gino is just too into fantasy football and he's not listening to Jasmine and pretty much just ignoring her needs. Gino says that he's sick of the anger and it has been affecting their intimacy. He tells them, unsolicited by the way, that he doesn't want to be affectionate with her, and Jasmine thinks that he has deep sexual issues and he would be hurt if she aired it out. She doesn't say that part in front of the family. She tells us in the interview. Mm-hmm. Uncle Marco says that they can either resolve their issues or just end it, and Jasmine shakes her head knowingly. They are later in the backyard after the family reunion with Coco the dog, and Jasmine says she enjoyed the family reunion. Gino thought the conversation wasn't positive and it was too focused on their personal life. He doesn't think that they should broadcast their issues. Jasmine says that they can see that he's not always nice. She also says that it's on him about bringing up the whole sex thing. Gino says that he had to explain why he was different. Jasmine says that he's a gaslighter and he doesn't enjoy sex with her. It makes her feel bad about herself. She says the problem is his addiction to porn. And Gino says that she's lying and he gets real fired up about it. He thinks she's putting the blame on him and he is not addicted to porn. Jasmine says that she understands the problem and Gino yells at her saying that she's not listening to him. Jasmine says that it makes sense why he's not with American because they basically would not put up with his bullshit. Okay, so through seeing all of this, are you Team Jasmine or Team Gino?
Oh, Team Jasmine, 100%. Like everything on here was Gino. Gino escalated the discussion they were having
Stupid.
in front of the family to sex, which is wild, just crazy.
Yeah, even Jasmine was like, we don't need to talk about our bedroom life.
Yeah, like it's one of the, yes, I guess some people have different relationships with their parents than I do, but my parents are just like, I have 2 kids, so they know I've done it. But other
Twice.
than that, yeah, other than that, we don't need to think or worry or discuss that at all, right? And so, yeah, so the idea that they were like, oh my God, I couldn't, that's just, that in any context, right? It's always uncomfortable when people start fighting in front of you. But if they start fighting in front of you and they start being like, why won't you fuck me? And it's like, oh God, like, oh no, this went bad and even went worse very quickly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what I thought was interesting is that the family all sided with Jasmine. And I think that really says something about the argument. And I think it also says something about how Gino, like, is just being stubborn. You know, like, your family is telling you that, hey, your wife has a point.
Right.
You know, maybe you should be listening to her. Maybe you aren't coming off the way that you think you're coming off if we all think this. And he's just being stubborn and being like, no, it's her. She's the problem.
Well, I know when the family did it because the family mentioned the same thing that Jasmine did, which is fucking fantasy football. Right? Like,
yeah.
And so, like, we know he must do that a lot. You have to do it a lot for your, like, aunt or cousin to be like, oh no, that guy in fantasy football, Jesus, whoa.
Yeah.
Right?
And I just thought, like, his whole thing where he was complaining about driving Jasmine to the gym, I thought was absurd and totally telling, right? Because he claims that he won't get a job because he's trying to help her adjust, but a ride to the gym every day is too much driving.
Yeah, just too much driving. Oh God. And the thing is like, okay, so if it is too much driving for you, then you have to find a way to get her to drive. He does not want her to have a credit card, so she can't get an Uber, right? He doesn't want, like, all these things. He doesn't want her to learn how to drive. He wants to control her and then complains that what you want is too much. Oh my God. Oh, this is so annoying. And yeah, it's just the thing. And it kind of harkens back to when Jasmine first came around, right? Is we kind of thought that the family was like, I couldn't believe it that he could get a woman like this. And we always thought it meant, like, how could this nerdy, pretty unattractive old guy, you know, awkward guy get this, you know, really hot Latina woman, right? Yeah. And I don't know that that's what the family was saying now. I think they were like, how can this fucking stubborn asshole convince any woman to be with him? Like,
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things too, where it's like, he's a little bit older and it could go either way. Right? Some people get older and they just let go of a lot more things, right? Because they're just like, life is short.
Yeah,
whatever.
and the YOLO things. You're like, whatever, yeah.
And they're very like, they're more laid back. Or it could go the other way where you just get really set in your ways. And Gino is one of those set in your way types.
Yes. Yeah, you get the people who are like, no, my chair was 5 degrees differently turned. I don't like this. I can't handle it. Yeah, he's very much set in his ways. And like, I don't know. And then, so what do you... I guess we get to the end, because the end, that was very strong language. I never thought that was so strong. I thought they said, you know, really mean things to each other before. And Jasmine had said, you know, Jasmine keeps saying she's going to have sex with other people just to get people with her, right? And he sucks at sex and all that stuff. But I really feel like the way he didn't, he said you're lying, and he did. And then he said, you're a liar. And like, just the tone of the way he said you're a liar was like, wow, that was like super harsh. I never thought of that in terms of, there's like historically, you know, I've been like things there's going on, like that would be the worst thing. Like those were fighting words. Those were, oh, you called me a liar. Now we have to shoot guns at each other. Like, it's like that was such a hurtful thing. And the way he said it was just like, wow. And I kind of wonder, like, do you think she's a liar, or do you think he really, I don't like addicted, but watches like an intense amount of porn?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what the truth is, but if you are watching more porn and masturbating more than you're having sex with your wife when she's available, wants it.
Yeah, and she wants it. Yes.
Then I think that is problematic. And would I necessarily say you're addicted to it? No, but that's why it's on her radar. It's because she's wondering, why are you choosing a video and yourself over your wife.
Yeah. Yeah. When she's sitting right there.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where it comes down to the thing. It's not like, oh man, I wasn't around this. I was at the gym. And when I was at the gym, you were like, I'm bored. Let's do this. Right. It was very much like, I'm here, like throwing myself at you. You know, I want it. You were here and you're going to go into the bathroom and jerk off instead. Like, it's just bad. And I don't know. I definitely think he does that. Because we mentioned it before it came on in the show. She had said that, like the first time they had sex, he had to finish in the bathroom, which we both thought was really weird. Like, not just that you can't, there's all kinds of issues with finishing, but like, why not stay in the bed and finish there?
Do it together.
Yeah,
I mean, okay, big deal. You're going to masturbate. You know? Like, but it's like, okay, but why do you have to be isolated? Like, did you bring your phone in there? Were you watching some porn while this was happening?
It really? And that would, I can't imagine that wouldn't make any woman feel ridiculously insecure and unattractive.
Sure.
If you're like, oh no, we were actually having sex and I can't keep it up. I'm just going to go into the bathroom and look at somebody else for a while. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. They really should have a job that's like a breakup coach, right? And it's like all this person does is coach you into disentangling yourself from being obsessed with someone else where you cannot leave them, you know, because it's like, that would be perfect. A breakup coach needs to come in and interfere and just be like, Jasmine, like, I know you're not perfect. Like, I guess a life coach too. Like, maybe we can work on yourself as well. But you need to leave this man. It's for the best for both of you.
Yeah, it is really wild to see so many people just be like, every second I'm with him, I'm miserable. I'm upset. I'm crying. I feel terrible about myself. But I can't imagine myself leaving him. Yeah. Like, there's something else going on there for sure that needs to be disentangled.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk Ashley and Manuel then. Speaking of things that need to get disentangled. So Ashley and Manuel are on their way to meet with the lawyer regarding this post-nup stuff. So Manuel doesn't really care. He's like, I don't know why we're doing this. This seems kind of dumb, but whatever. It's easier just to go along to get along. So she thinks it's necessary. They need the post-nup so she can build trust. And he just thinks that her cousin got into her head about him being after her money. And he's not after her money, right? So the lawyer speaks English. The lawyer only speaks English. So there's like this interpreter here with Manuel, and the interpreter like has a headphone and he's translating, and Manuel has it in his ear. So the lawyer starts by asking why they want a post-nup. And she goes on about him being too secretive and how that gives her trust issues. And, you know, for his end, he's kind of insulted that she's implying that he's here for money. And if anybody should be worried about financial situation, it should be him, because she's spending like way too much money. So then they kind of see the lawyer in a interview. We see a couple of shots of him doing this. And this is the time when he's like, you know, I've done post-nups for people in really strong relationships, but the implication being they're few or far between, and it's usually the first step towards like something very bad happening.
Yeah.
So then we start then he, you know, has to get their whole financial picture. So he starts talking work. Obviously, Manuel can't work yet. And she says that her work is her business, right? Her witch business, and she always never describes what she does in the same way twice.
Yeah.
But it's always like, okay, that checkbox, that's a business that you have. Like, and I feel like she could have left it with, I own my own business. And the lawyer would have been like, cool. Like, like, that's the only information he needed. He did not need, well, I have spiritual chakras that I use my tarot card readings to do. It's like this whole big thing. So anyway, but since she founded that business pre-marriage, the business belongs to her. But then, you know, any money that she made after the marriage in her business would be considered joint property. And I guess they're in New York, which he kept saying equitable distribution. So that's a little bit different than California, which I forget is just a joint property, right? California is always supposed to be 50-50, where other states are equitable distribution. He kept saying that. So I understood it was that. But he would be entitled to his share of what she made as joint property. And she's just like, oh, no, I'm not giving I'm not giving him any money unless I decide to give it to him. What if we go over the $1 million mark? And yeah, don't.
Yeah, right. Right. Wishful thinking.
So Manuel then starts to ask about, like, he wants to get his digs in, right? So he's kind of here in Spanish. So he starts to ask what can be done about the spending. spending way more money than he wants. He's worried that if they go into a marriage, is she going to be able to spend all this money and then take half of what he's been saving if he saves and she spends, right? And then that kind of comes around to, well, what about spending? What about debts? And that's when we find out, and also Manuel finds out, well, kind of, it's been teased all season, that she has about $100,000 worth of, she said it was debt, but it's student loan debt because she has 3 different degrees for some reason.
Yeah.
But anyway, the lawyer says it would be separate property because of she had it prior to the marriage. It wouldn't be his. But Manuel can't hear that because he's like, wait, 100,000? Literally looks at the translator guy and is like, are you translating that right? 100,000? What? I just cannot believe anything that's going on, right? They keep trying to clarify to him that that is hers. That's not you. But he's very, very concerned. He doesn't want to live with these debts. He can't even believe she'd take on that much debt. And she doesn't understand, how could you get yourself into a situation where you have $100,000 in debt? Right? So she says, like, well, I have 3 degrees. And he's like, how many of those degrees do you use for your job?
Oh.
Which the real answer is none, but she's like, all of them.
Oh my gosh, Manuel. Poor you.
So then he starts going on about how much she spends on coffee and nails and she has this debt. What is he doing? Like, how much do you even save? And she was like, a couple $100 a month. He's like, where is it? I don't see that.
Yeah,
so,
she's lying. Yeah,
the lawyer eventually steps in and is like, hey guys, this is a post-nup thing and not a financial workshop. And then reminds us, as always, that the person to go to for marriage counseling is never your $300 an hour attorney.
Right.
So Manuel is now super on board with the post-nup and thinks that they're going to be in big trouble if she can't change her ways. So he said that he always knew she was bad at managing money, but had no idea how it was this bad. And also, she was mad at him for keeping financial secrets. And he's like, this is a giant financial secret. So I don't know how this is going to work. Okay, you say she's lying. Like, how much about this do you think she's lying about?
About her saving?
Yeah, about whatever she's lying about. How about her financial situation?
I think her financial situation, she's not saving.
She's not saving.
Because that's the other thing that doesn't make any sense to me, too. But I get, people just don't think about debt the same way that I necessarily think about debt. To me, if you have extra money and you have debt, you pay off your debt.
You pay off your debt,
right?
Yes.
And you pay it off faster. But then, I have some friends who are just like, well, depending on the interest rates, if you're making more money, if the interest rate that you're earning is more than the one that you have on your debt, then you should be saving your money. And to me, it just doesn't make sense. Just pay it off.
That can make sense it didn't make sense until this year. Right?
Yes.
Because there was no way you had a higher interest rate on what you were saving than what your debt was before, right?
Yeah.
And that was for Ashley. And I'm sure the student loan debt that she has for her 3, as she said, I want to know what these 3 degrees are.
I know.
I heavily want to know. If it's remember Tanya with her witchy school? Is that what it is? Is it witchy school degree or is it an actual degree?
Yeah,
right?
I don't think it's an actual degree. I feel like it's some bullshit degree that she has. I want to say she's probably counting some kind of bullshit community college degree that's in nothing.
That one's probably fine. That probably has the least amount of debt associated with it at all.
Actually, it's true, right? Community college is not.
Yeah.
Well, it's reasonably priced. Absolutely.
Right.
It's not $100,000.
$100,000.
Right?
You'd be hard pressed to have $100,000 in community college debt.
Yeah,
sure.
You got a point there. But I just feel like, if she was really more educated, I feel that she would be doing better financially because it's I don't know. Okay, I say this and then I think about it and it's there's a lot of smart people that are really bad with money.
Yeah, there are for sure. But I also could see her as being somebody who has that payment and just makes the minimum payment every month. And it's why isn't my debt going down? It's because you're making the minimum payment every month. It's not designed to go down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I see her as someone who just says, oh, well, I only have to pay that much. And I think the reason why it bothers me and other people about paying the minimum amount is because you take a look at how much you're paying extra in interest and that bothers you, right?
Yeah. I
want to pay the least amount of interest possible because that's ridiculous. I got nothing for that.
I go out, and that's the thing. There's certain things I have to do it for. I have to do it. I had to do it for my for my student. But I did that. I got some help from my parents because I'm great, thankful enough for that, privileged enough for that to get some help from me. But I took on debt, and that's something that I understand. You had to take on debt to get get education and a thing, not witchy school.
Yeah.
And like a house, right? And things like that. And sometimes you're often in the situation where you need a car. I think it's dumb to take out a ton of loan to buy $175,000. Oh, I got a 14% loan to buy a $78,000 car. And I was like, they have $20,000 cars too, right? Like those exist.
Yeah. It depends on, your financial situation, but she's in debt.
Sure,
so this is certainly
Well, I'm
different.
saying things that you can't avoid going into debt for, right? And even those, I'm like constantly being like, all right, what's the actual total going to be?
Right.
If is a $70,000 car or whatever, because I am never the person who goes in there is like, tell me what the monthly payment is, right? I'm the person who's like, no, tell me how much I will have to end up paying for this vehicle at the end of the day, because it's multiples of that. And she's a monthly payment person for sure.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, very frustrating. Okay, so let's end with our last couple, Angela and Michael. So Angela and Michael are still fighting over having his visa case moved. Angela walks off to smoke while Michael tells us that the whole day has just been too much. He's just trying to do everything he can so they can be together living as a family. He goes to talk to Angela and asks her to just be patient. But she doesn't want to hear things that she wants to hear. She wants to hear what she needs to know. Angela thinks that he should have left things alone because moving the visa may be suspicious. Angela tries to take a taxi home because she's sick of being lied to. Back at the hotel, Angela calls her daughter Skyla and tells her that they didn't get an answer and it will be another 2 weeks until they know something. Skyla agrees that Michael isn't trying to leave with her, which is why he told her to leave. Skyla says that he's a scammer and she needs to figure out what's going on. She tells her mom that he can't use her unless she allows him to. Skyla says it's not worth hanging on. Angela cries, saying she's confused, then yells that she's confused. Angela can't trust Michael, and he always lies to her. She is starting to think that he's scamming her. Angela gets a knock on the door, and it's Michael. She points to a chair and tells him to sit down. They just kind of stare at each other before Michael apologizes for what happened today. He tells her to wait for the outcome, and Angela goes on about him lying to her. She's exhausted with all his lies and stories. She tells him that he can sleep on the couch and pee out the front door. Michael is frustrated because she's not listening to him. He doesn't think who moves the interview is important. It just matters the final decision, and he wants her to trust him. All right, so do you think that this was a smart move of Michael, and why do you think he didn't tell Angela in the first place?
Whether smart move or not, I don't think it makes a difference. I don't think it's a game changer either way in terms of getting the visa. He didn't tell Angela because whenever he tells Angela anything, she screams at him. She freaks out and yells at him. And now the question is, why didn't he tell her that it was something he was thinking about doing before he did it? And because she would yell at him. Why are you crazy? You trying to get this visa canceled? Like she would just no matter when in this process she found out that he was thinking about moving this thing, she would have screamed at him. Yeah. Like, so might as well ride that out. Because I always think that with parents, like I feel like my parents were a little bit like this when I was a kid. And I was like, they would be like, I would do something bad and they'd get all mad and they'd yell and scream at me and, everything and holler. And then I would do something bad and then hide it and they'd yell and scream at me and be like, well, if you would have just told us, we wouldn't have been as mad. And I was like, bullshit. You would have been just as mad if I told you before. And now you're just mad about two things. And I was hoping I would have to ride this out and you wouldn't be mad at all. Like, I think that's Michael's MO here the whole time.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, whether it's or not it helps or not, I don't know. Like all of immigration is just a huge black box to everyone, including the people on the show.
I feel like including people who work for immigration.
Yes. Yeah.
There's like no insider knowledge whatsoever because it seems kind of random, or not even random, but like on the whim of whoever's making the decision.
Yeah. And it goes like, oh, somebody 3 layers up. Yeah. And it makes sense what Michael said in terms of, well, they found out I got denied and they had to find out why. Of course they do. Mm-hmm. They can't approve you knowing you were denied before, thinking like, oh man, but maybe we missed something. Let's go see what they thought.
Yeah.
And then it might be something that's resolved, something that you feel differently about. But yeah, you can't just be like, oh, yep, well, we decided we're not going to look at that. We're going to figure it out. Of course it's going to happen. Of course it's going to take 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that we did not see Ed and Liz this week. I'm wondering how much more of them we will see.
I mean, given that last time was like 2 scenes of absolutely nothing, just being like reiterating, Liz, talk about how you feel. I feel exactly the same way as the last time you talked about me. Okay, that's great. So, yeah.
Okay, so out of the group we saw this week, who would you say is your student of the week?
I will. Jeez. I'm gonna.
I know.
I know.
Tough.
Very tough. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Lauren.
I went with Lauren too.
I'm gonna go with Lauren because Alexei is not bad either, but I feel like she's kind of caught in the middle because she cares about the people there, not as much as Alexei and his father, who wants to go back there, right? So she is like one further step removed and is trying to do what she can because the whole plan here was for Alex to be taking care of her still and do that. And when the situation changed, she seemed to roll with it well enough.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just to throw this part in, I just, I appreciate that when she was talking about Alex possibly joining IDF again, that she was like, I wouldn't want him to, but I understand why he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more than a lot of people. Like, I feel like a lot of people are just overcome with fear and like their first reaction is like, no. Over my dead body.
Right.
Coincidentally enough.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about your dunce?
We did it last week, but it's still Gino.
Yes.
Like
Gino.
he's still awful.
He is so awful. And it's like, how could you be so awful and have everyone point out how awful you are and you still are like digging in and being like, no, I'm right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. What about your life lesson?
Life lesson is, we'll go with not just debt, but like financial disclosure. How do you get married to somebody and not disclose that you have debt, even if it's reasonable debt, right? That would be like, to me, that's like finding out like, oh yeah, I own a house you didn't know about. Like how do you own a house I don't know about? We're like literally been married already. So it's like, if you don't feel the need to disclose that, and especially on Ashley's side, like if you didn't disclose that, you can't be mad about them not disclosing things.
Right. I kind of went on a money theme as well, but mine was more towards Patrick and Jose more so. Like, you should just not mix family and money, right? Money should not be changing families' hands just simply to pay a family member for something, unless they professionally do that, right? And you're paying them the, agreed upon rate that they, give everyone else. And if you want to give them a discount, that's up to you. But, what this weird, I think it's because it's so undefined, and that's the reason why they're having so many problems.
Well, it is because I don't think this is a ranch he typically rents out.
Yeah.
I think it's just his ranch that he hangs out on.
Sure, and he just
then
wants
it's like,
money.
Well, if this was a ranch that was a resort that you had parties at, they would rent it out. So let's think about a rate. It's like, that's weird. That's a weird thing to do.
Yeah, so just shouldn't mix family with money that way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so as far as we know, we're still on next week.
Yeah.
What's our schedule like next week? Same time, just it'll be separate because we'll be back
on our respective coasts.
Yes. All right, but until then.
All right, see everybody then.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Good.